with AmpScipting. Right? So I'm going to go slow with AmpScipting because it's coding, right? Coding requires logical approach. Everybody is not logically savvy, but that doesn't mean everybody cannot learn AmpScipting. It's quite simple. As long as you follow it logically, you'll be able to learn it. Second thing, what I want to inform everybody is that don't by heart it, right? Many people like to by heart coding. Please don't do that. Syntaxes are always available. You can browse online, you'll get the syntax of the function and things like that. So don't by heart it, just understand how it's done, and you can implement the same logic across whatever emails whenever it's required. Right. Now, when to use AmpScipting? That's a question which everybody keeps asking. What we saw yesterday was we did personalization, right? AmpScipting is used for personalization. Yeah, what we did yesterday was also personalization, but we did it without AmpScipting. So basically, if there's a requirement where you have all the relevant attributes available in your sending data extension, then there is no need to use AmpScipting. You can use what you have done yesterday. You can use the blocks, dynamic blocks. You can use attributes directly from the data extension. So all that is possible. So if it is required, you need not even look at doing AmpScipting in all the emails which are required for the campaign. However, AmpScipting is required if you need to do some kind of calculations, like if you have data in the data extension, and maybe you need to do some aggregate functions, you want to add some stuff, do some mathematics, for example, some concatenation, for example. Your regular one may not work. You can't add it using the regular one. You'll have to use AmpScipting. Second option, second reason to use AmpScipting is if you need to use data from a different data extension, which is basically attributes or data which is not available in the sending data extension, then you need to use AmpScipting. Remember, only one sending data extension can be connected to the email. So if there are other data extensions, either non-sending or even sendable, it's possible. If there are other data extensions from where you need to pull out data, you will need to use AmpScipting. The third is this example which Swati was doing just now on hide and show. Now I gave you 3 conditions, platinum, gold, silver. If I tell you instead of 3 conditions, there are 100 conditions, right? All different conditions are there. So if you start to do those 100 conditions using the approach which I showed you yesterday, using dynamic blocks, it's going to be a very long process. You will have to end up making, first of all, 100 blocks for all those 100 conditions. And then you'll have to program it logically in the dynamic block. So that's a huge and a long method of building it out. Here's where AmpScipting helps. Now today what we'll do is I'll be teaching you AmpScipting, and the same thing with dynamic blocks which you did yesterday. We will do the same example with AmpScipting, and you will notice that the amount of code required is far too less. You don't even need to build those many blocks and things like that. You don't need to. So let's see how to do that. Let me share my screen. Now the reference, right? In order to reference to figure out the functions of AmpScipting, obviously Salesforce Marketing Cloud has repositories. You can search and figure out the functions there. I use a third-party repository which I can recommend. You can use it too. It's called AmpScript Guide, ampscript.guide. I'll email you guys this URL today. But basically, I use this repository. It's quite interesting. Interesting why? Because while Marketing Cloud will have the same functions and explanation and everything, the advantage the AmpScript guide has is that it also gives you examples. So it will give you how to use the function, explanation, and an example also. So you know how it has been implemented, right? So these are all functions in AmpScripting. So I was talking about mathematical operators and also everything will be available over here. If you know the name of the function, you can just search for it here and you'll get the function. So this is what I'll be using throughout the session whenever we're doing AmpScripting. Now, if you talk about mathematical functions, if you click on this, these are the mathematical functions. If you want to know the add function, just click on this. It will actually tell you the arguments. It will give you an example. So in this way, you will be able to understand the function and you'll be able to also, see the example. You can even use this example in your SFMC instance to see how it actually works. So that is the advantage of this site, AmpScript.guide. Now, let's start with AmpScripting. Now, there are two ways to do AmpScripting. One is inline AmpScripting. When you say inline AmpScripting, is basically the code is written in one line. That's why it's called inline. Examples of this kind of AmpScripting is if you want to, display some value. Like yesterday, if you remember, we displayed the name, the first name, the last name. We did all that using attributes from the data extension. So if you want to do something similar, then that's an inline AmpScript. Another type of AmpScript is block code. In block code, you are writing a series of functions and commands, one below the other. And that's in order to tell Marketing Cloud that, this is AmpScript. Don't execute it like an HTML or anything like that. We reference that entire block and we call it AmpScript block. So these are two differences of how to do AmpScripting. I'll be teaching you both. So let's go to my old example. Let's use the same one which we did that day. This is a template. Let's use the email. Okay. Now, like I mentioned, AmpScript is used when you want to use values from a different data extension which is not a part of the sending data extension. But obviously, you can use it to pull out data from the sending data extension as well. So let's begin small. Let's begin with pulling out values from the sending data extension. And then the other examples which we do, we will pull out values from other data extensions. So let's say this is my email. Yesterday we did this, right? If you remember, we did all this percentage F name and stuff like that. What we'll do today is we will replace these with AmpScripted variables instead. Now, remember AmpScript, in order to do your AmpScripting, you need to understand that when SFMC processes this email, it will process it from top to bottom. So whenever you're doing block AmpScript code, the best practice is to do it right on top, on the top block. If you do it in the middle, nothing's wrong. You can do it in the middle as well. The only disadvantage if you do it in the middle is whatever variables you're using or you're declaring, they will be active only from that point downwards. So if you have a variable which you're declaring here and you're calling it on top somewhere here, that variable will not work simply because SFMC has not yet read the AmpScripting block because the block is down and you're actually calling the variable on top. So it will give you an error. So the best practice is always do your block AmpScripting with right on top. How do you do that? So you can do it in an HTML block. So just take this and put it right on top here. I put it here. Okay. And what I do normally is for AmpScripting, I always take, like personally, I take notes because the functions which I'll be teaching you, all the functions which I'll be teaching you within the next couple of days, these functions will be required, not all of them together, but one or two together, two or three together. These will be required for 99% of your emails. So AmpScripting, you noticed there are a lot of functions here, but trust me, you will only be using maybe 10, 10 of them. Maybe for some special campaigns, you might need to do some research and figure out a function. But for 99% of your email campaigns, you will need the functions which I'll be showing you within the next couple of days. So if you can take notes on how those functions are getting implemented, you can keep that like as a cheat sheet with you. And whenever you're doing any AmpScript programming, you can just use that cheat sheet to see how it was implemented. That's what I do. So I'm going to start my block code. In order to define the beginning of the block code, this is the syntax: percentage open bracket. That's how you define the beginning of an AmpScript block. In order to define a variable, for those who've not done programming in their past, what is a variable? A variable is, you can say, an object whose value changes, right? So today, or maybe in the beginning, the value might be something like, if you have a variable for names, for the first name, just as an example. So for the email for the first customer, maybe the value for that variable will be Mihir. For the second customer, that variable will automatically change to the first name of the second record, and then so on and so forth. So a variable is something whose value keeps on changing depending on conditions. So in order to declare a variable in AmpScript, we use the var function, the var function. Now, what do I want to do? I want to display the first name here. I want to display the last name. I want to display email address. These three things is what I want to display. So I need three variables for now. So var at fname, or let's just call it first. At the rate sign and first. So that's the variable. Then the last name at last, and email address at email. So this is how I declare my variables. I needed three variables. I've declared three variables. And let's open my data extension. Now I've declared the variable. The next part of this process is to set the variable. Right? I need to tell the AmpScript how to pick up the values for the first name, last name, and the email address. So how do I do that? For that, we have a set function. Set, set, at first equal to. So here I'm trying to tell the AmpScript that this variable first, at first, from where it needs to take the value. I've opened this because I want to know the attribute name from my data extension. So I am using this one. Yep, I'm using this one. These are my attributes name on top. Same over here. So my first name attribute is called fname. Now, when I want to tell the AmpScript to pick up the attribute name from the data extension that is connected to the email, I need to put these brackets. When I put these brackets, I believe even if you don't put the brackets, it works. But I normally follow the process of putting the brackets. In the earlier version, I think it didn't work, but now with the new version of SFMC, you don't, I think, need brackets anyway. But I'm following the old technique. So I've put brackets and I've written the attribute name. In the same way, I will put last name also. I'll quickly see the attribute name. It's L name. And the same way, email address. That's email ADDR. For this use case, I honestly don't need anything else. So I can close my AmpScipting. How do I close my AmpScipting? Close the AmpScipting by doing this. This is how I close the block code. Now you will see the script written over here, but don't worry. It's not going to be displayed when you preview the email or even when you send it out. It's just displayed on the screen. Now, let's populate this. How do I populate AmpScripted variables? Remember, percentage fname is not AmpScripting. It is using the attributes from the data extension. But now instead of that, I want to use my AmpScripting variable. The output will be same. I'm not saying output will change. Output will be the same, but I just want to show you how to do it using the AmpScripted variable. Now what I'm doing is writing inline AmpScript. Earlier I did block AmpScript. Now I'm doing inline AmpScript. How do I do that? So there is a v function. V is for value. So we can use the v function, which will help you put it over here. How do I use the v function? Percentage equal to v, open your bracket, put the variable name. So my variable name was first. Close the bracket, equal to percentage. This is how I do inline AmpScripting. Now I'm a little lazy, so I'm just going to copy this because I want to use it somewhere else also. Okay, now next I want it here on the button text. We'll do the same thing. I can call it last. Again here. And here. This should do it. Oh, great. It didn't work. Let me select the correct data extension. Maybe the data extension selected was wrong. Great, still not working. Okay, so there is a problem here. It's not picking up the AmpScript. So let's see why.
That I think syntax is wrong.
Sorry, I lost you there.
I think syntax is wrong.
You think syntax is wrong? Possible. Yeah, you're right. Brackets are wrong. I don't know why I put extra brackets. My bad. I put an extra bracket here. So yeah, AmpScripting is very touchy. one simple syntax error and it will not work. I put an extra bracket here. That's why it messed up. Sorry for that. It's just one bracket. And it's not going to give you any errors when you're writing it. So, that's the problem with AmpScipting. You have to be, if there's a mistake, then you will always be wondering what happened. So you'll have to always do a proper root cause analysis to try and figure out why it's failing. Should work now. There you go. So first name is me here. It's showing here. My last name is not registered, so it's showing here. Again, last name is here. Email address is here. So in this way, what I've done is instead of using the attributes directly from the data extension, sending data extension, I'm using it. I'm pulling the same value, but I'm pulling it using AmpScript, using the simple v function, value function. Any questions on this? This is simple code. You'll be using this set of code everywhere because you'll always have to declare a variable. You'll always have to set a variable. So this code you'll always be using everywhere.
Is it case sensitive, like where we can write var variable small also, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
is it case sensitive?
It's not case sensitive.
Okay.
Even the variable, right? At first, right? I've written F capital. If you write a small f and you call with a big F, it should not make a problem, make a change, this issue. It should work. Okay. Now, let's see if there's something in this which we can play around with. Okay. Now, all programming, now, like all programming languages, that would be the good old basic, or if people have done C programming, even C programming, then .NET, VB, there are functions which are very common. The loops, the conditions, right? So there's the if-then function. If-then function is used in all programming languages. I don't know a single programming language that does not have an if-then function. In the same way, even in AmpScripts, there are if-then functions, which you'll be using pretty regularly. So let's quickly look at how an if-then function works. Now, I'll just see my data extension. Now I have this ex-employee, whatever. So what I'll do is, if the person is an ex-employee, right? Let's display, let's display one image. If the person is an ex-employee, let's display an image. If the person is not an ex-employee, then I don't want to display anything. Let's try and do that. So let's say here. Let's do it below this. So if it's an ex-employee, some image should come. If it's not an ex-employee, then cool. Then it should be blank, no image. Now, now this is a text block. Isn't it a text block? Yeah, it's a text block. So what I can do is let's position an HTML block here. Let's take this, let's put this here below this. Right now, now for those who know HTML, right? So there's always a mixed set of people who don't know HTML, people who know HTML. So I've told you before also, if you don't know HTML, it does not mean you can't work on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. There are always workarounds. People who know HTML, excellent, good job. So so let's assume I don't know HTML. Now, what I want to do is in this HTML block, there's a block. Didn't I put a block just now? Ah, came here. Great. Bye bye. Come on, block. Move. Ha. Again. Oh, man. Okay, fine. In this HTML block, I want to put an image, right? And like I mentioned, if the image is, if he's an ex-employee, I want to show the image. If he's not an ex-employee, I don't want to show the image. So what I can do is, for those, this is for those people who don't know HTML. So I'm going, and those who know HTML, it's easy. You just put the HTML code to get an image. For those who don't know HTML, this is how you do it. Take an image block, put it here. Take this, select the relevant image. Okay, a lot of people have uploaded images. Let's use something. Okay, let's use French fries. Right now, what you do is come to HTML editor. As I mentioned, Marketing Cloud will always generate HTML code. So just copy this code. Control A, Control C. Come here, put it here. Done. Delete this block. So this is an HTML block. I put HTML code. I got this image. Now, like I mentioned, but I don't want to show this to everybody. I only want to show this to ex-employees. I want to give them French fries, right? So I'll need some AmpScipting using the if-then condition. What I need to do is come here and put my code here. I'm going to do inline code, percentage open bracket. If now, one mistake which I'm doing right now is I'm trying to check for ex-employee. But if you notice, I had not declared this variable. So let's declare that variable first. I'll come back here. I'll put one more variable at employee emp. Set the variable set at emp equal to exemp. Now I come back here. So if at emp, now I want to show it only when it is ex-employee, right? So equal to. Now remember in AmpScipting, a single equal to is like, set at emp equal to, right? I'm setting. If I want to compare, the compare operator, it's a double equal to. So if at emp equal to, if it's an ex-employee, it's going to be true. Equal to true. Then, now I did inline because I'm going to shut it here. I wanted to run this entire code because I'm going to put an end if. So if always ends with an end if. So whatever is between if and end if, it's going to execute based on the condition you have put. So I'm going to put an end if at the end here. That's why I did inline. Now I'll be putting my end ifs. Again, for end if, very simple. percentage. Now, for example, I don't remember, is it end if, is it one word or two words? Right? I mean, you can't remember everything. So what you need to do is you can come here, you can check end if. Looks like it's one word. Right. If
Else, I guess it is else if. Else if.
no, else is also there. You're right. You're right about else. Else is if I want to add another condition. I'll talk about that as well. No, I'm giving you an example of in case you don't remember how to do it. How do I check the arguments? So this is how you do it. Okay, it's coming too slowly, but it is basically one word. So I'll do end if. So this, when I write a condition like this, what it does is, obviously this will tell it that it's AmpScipting. Then it will see this condition. If this condition is true, or if this condition is satisfied, it will execute whatever is between this and end if. If this condition is not satisfied, it will just skip everything and it will go straight to end if. And that's what we want, right? If it is true, if he's an ex-employee, then show the photo. If it's not an ex-employee, just don't show anything. That's what we're trying to do. So let's see if this works. So now this person is an ex-employee. So ideally the photo should be there. This person is not an ex-employee. If you notice that photo is missing, it's not there. See the difference? So with one simple if command, I'm able to do what you guys were doing with the dynamic blocks. You remember for dynamic blocks, what you did? You created a block, you saved it, then you put the dynamic blocks, then you put a condition logic in the dynamic block, then you selected the content block which you had saved. Ideally, you would be doing that, right? If I had not taught you AmpScipting, then if I had given you this as an assignment, you would do that. But this is how you do it using AmpScripts, using a very simple if condition. Just 2 lines of code. That's all was required. This much. Now somebody spoke about else. So else is also there. Now this is one condition, if and if. But let's say I up the stakes. I say, okay, for ex-employees, I want to show potato chips. And for other people, I want to show something else, some other image. So let's see some other image. Let's say I want to say I want to show a fruity. Right. I'm not going to upload it and all, but I'll just copy the image address for now. Put it on a notepad. So now I will move the end if somewhere else, right? We will use else. How to do else? Similar like end if, percentage else. I need code again, so I'll use the same thing. Only thing is I'm going to change the URL. So my URL is this big fat thing, quite big. This is the URL for the image. And of course, end if has to be there, right? End if can't go anywhere. There. Now, okay, then I'm scripting. Wonder what happened. I think it's a wrong space. Oh, it's. See, it's so sensitive, right? This is, and that's why I keep telling you guys practice, because you'll keep making such errors, and then you will figure out how to correct them. So in future, you will not make similar errors. I do a lot of AMP scripting on a daily basis, yet I make mistakes. Okay, so this guy is an ex-employee. He gets to see French fries. This person is not an ex-employee. He gets to see fruity. Isn't this what your dynamic blocks were doing? This is exactly what you were doing in dynamic blocks. So this was achieved without using dynamic blocks, using a simple if then, else, end if function. And the function is quite small. This is big because the image URL, so don't go with that. But otherwise, it's just a small function. It's a if function, else function, and an end if at the end. Questions?
Can you show the end if part? You have just written the end if.
End if is at the end. Here, end if.
Okay, end if. Okay.
Okay. I'll show you some mathematical functions. Now, employee code is numerical field, so we can do some mathematical functions there. Let's do it here. Let's add one more block. But before that, here. Okay. Now remember, if I want to do addition, for example, right? System searching. So yeah, this is the add function. Now I know everybody, if I tell you add 5 plus 2, you will do 5 plus 2 equal to 7. Everybody does it that way. Remember, but here it's all about variables. So when you were doing algebra in mathematics, you will have x plus y. Z is equal to x plus y. And x will have a value, y will have a value. When you add x plus y, z will get a value. So it's the same thing over here. You'll have to store the value in x. If you want to add two variables, you'll have to store one value in x, one value in y, add it, and then the third variable, z in this case, will get the value of x plus y. That's how mathematical functions are done in any programming language. Now here, you don't do x plus y. You have to do it in this way. X, this is 1, but basically it's x comma y, right? So add bracket x comma y. X will be the first one, y will be the second one. That's how you do additions. Unfortunately, I don't have actual data to show you additions. Can I create an attribute? Age. Okay. I'm creating one more field. Then let's see. create one more field. Um, Great, it's not updated. Okay, I'm just updating for 3 records for now. Okay, so now if I have to add employee code plus age plus salary, if I want to do this plus this plus this, we can do it. But if you notice the arguments, it takes only 2. Right? I have no idea why it is made like this, but it takes only 2 arguments. So basically what we'll have to do is add employee code with age, store it in a variable, and then that variable you added with salary, store it in another variable, and you can then display that variable, which will basically be this plus this plus this. So let's see how to do that. So I need now how many variables? I need one variable to store employee code, one variable to store age, one variable to store salary, one variable to store the sum of employee code and age, and another last variable to store the sum of that plus this. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables. So at code, which is employee code, at salary age, at salary, at sum1, at sum2. Now I will do all my mathematical operations here simply because I mean there's no hard and fast rule. You can do it down as well, but I prefer doing it right on top here where I've declared variables and stuff like that, right? So I'll do it here. Set. First, I will initialize my new variable. Set at code equal to emp underscore code. Set at age equal to, I think it's called age only. Age. Yep. Set at salary equal to salary. Set at sum1 equal to add. See the syntax, add curly brackets and the 2 arguments. Curly brackets. I'm going to first add employee code and age. So at code, comma, at age. Set at sum2 equal to add. I'm going to the sum I'm going to take. So at sum1, and I'm going to take salary. Now I want to display it somewhere. So let's display it here only. Or let's display it here. Let's do something different. Let's display it in the as the button text. Sum2. There you go. So it's added 4 plus 200 is 204 plus 5,000, 5,204. These two are null. So obviously 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. So this is how your add function works. The reason I showed it to you is to show you how the processing happens, right? So you process everything on top here. And then the remaining part of the email, you use it for displaying using the v function. Or obviously you need to use if then logic, then if then logic will be in the bottom part of the email. Questions, guys? Any doubts? Okay. Wow. Okay. No doubt. That's good. Is this getting too much for you for today, or can I continue? Do you guys want to stop for today? Because next I'm going to show you. So there are these two functions which I want to show you. The lookup function and the lookup rows function. So uh, these functions are used to reference other data extensions and pull out data from those data extensions onto your email. Are you guys okay to do that? As I want to both today, as in I want to both together anyways, but are you okay to do one of them today, or do you want to stop for today and then do the lookup function tomorrow? What say, guys? Guys, I can't hear you.
We can continue actually.
All right. Okay. Since my this instance of Marketing Cloud does not have enough data, I'm going to switch instances. I'm going to use my other instance. We're going to do the lookup function. This is a very powerful function. You'll be using this quite often. And though it looks complex, trust me, it is one of the easiest functions to use. What does it do? Or let's see what the arguments are. It's lookup. It takes 4 arguments, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll talk about these later on. So what are the arguments? The first argument is the name of a data extension. Remember, I told you now these functions henceforth will be used to refer data from other data extensions, those data extensions which are not connected to your email. So that's why it needs to know the name of the data extension. That's why that's the first argument. It needs to know the name of the data extension. 2 is name of the column from which to return a value. Now I need to pick up one value. So it needs to know that value which you want to pick up from, it's located in which column. When you say column, basically which attribute. Now, I don't know if you have done this in school. In geography, I have done this, latitude and longitude. Or in geometry, it is X and Y, X coordinate, Y coordinate. So in order to plot coordinates of anything, you need the x-axis and y-axis. You give them values, and then that's how you can plot. So this is the same thing. 2 is giving you the column. 3 is giving you from which row, right? I think if I show you my data extension, maybe it will make it easier for you guys. Okay, so let's use okay. So I have some records over here. So this is a scorecard. Right? I have employee code, name, stuff like that. And this is my data. Now this is not my sending data extension. So don't consider this as a sending data extension. This is my data, regular data extension. My sending data extension is going to have employee code or email address, right? So when I say in the sending data extension, the record pulled is for this person, Poonam. What I want to do is in the email, I want to display some value. So for Poonam, I want to display, let's say the shift score. Or I want to display score of leave management. Okay, so if I want to do that, how do I do it? I will use the lookup function. So I'll give the data extension name, which will be this raw. I will give name of the column from which to return a value. So let's say I want to do the shift management. So the name of the column will be shift. Then I have to say name of the column that identifies the row to retrieve. Now I need a reference, and that's why keys are very important. So let's say my reference is employee code. So then argument 3 will be employee code. And then the fourth is the value that identifies the row. So the value will be the actual employee code from the sending data extension. Now, when I talk about it like this, it sounds a little complex, but when I do it, it's not that difficult. Let me show you. For those who've done SQL in the past, there is a function called select. Select value, no, select, value from table name where, and there's a where condition. So if you guys have done SQL, then this is exactly like the select condition. This is exactly the same thing. Let's create a new email. Let's go to oh, it's slow today. Mm. Finally. Okay, let's create a simple email super fast. Create email message, template, empty, confirm, well. So I need an HTML block for my AmpScipting. I'll put that. And after that, in order to display, right? So I'll just put a text block for now. All right, let us start with HTML. So what we need to do is, it's a block code. So we need block. Now variables. Now my sending data extension will have employee code, which I'll be using as reference to the other data extension. So I need to store the employee code in a variable. So that's my first variable. EMP, that's my employee code. After that, I want to display, let's say I want to display the quality score and the shift score. These two scores I want to display for each individual. So that means I need two more variables. So let's say at quality, at shift. So I can think of three variables right now. If we need more, we'll obviously add them. Set at EMP. Let's look at my sending data extension. Now, remember one thing, I've not yet connected my sending data extension here. So let's look at my sending data extension. My sending data extension is here. It's called EMP. The sending data extension has employee code, email address, things like that. This is what I want to reference. I can even reference email address because my other data extension has both these fields. I can use any. I'll use this. So this is what I'll take. Now quality. Now this is where I start using the lookup function. Lookup. Remember, first parameter is the name of the data extension from which to return the value. My data extension is this one, raw, R-A-W. Raw, comma, second parameter, name of the column from which to return a value. Now remember, I want quality and shift. So my quality value is stored in column quality. My shift is stored in shift. So we're doing quality. So let's do quality. Comma. Now we said the reference, right? I need to refer. Right now I'm doing employee code. So where is the employee code column in this data extension? Now this is the raw data extension. The employee code column is called EMP code. And finally, EMP. So when I do this, basically it's going to pick up the quality score of the person. From the sending data extension, I've copied the employee ID. That employee ID I'm referencing to the employee code of the other data extension, and that's how I'll pick up the quality score of that person. Now I will do the same thing for the shift score. The only thing changing will be the variable name and the column from where I want to pick up the value. The column is called shift. In this way, for each row entry or each record of the sending data extension, I'll be able to pick up the quality score and the shift score. And that's it. I just now need to display it. So I can come here. I can say your quality. Actually, that's okay. Your quality score is your shift. And of course, now I'll have to use the V function. Everybody knows the V function. Percentage equal to V at quality. Let's see if it works. It'll give me an error first, I think, because of data extension. Oh, well, it didn't. Okay, great. So I'll select the sending data extension. Pick up any record. This guy is called Basit Parkar. Quality score is 25, shift score is 5. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. What's the employee code? 41882. That's it. So quality score 25, shift score is 5. That's what we've got in the email. If you go to the next guy, there's a lady called Sampada. She's got a little higher quality score of 35. Shift score is 5. So this is employee code 28335. There you go, 35 and 5. So in this way, this is an example where you are using one sending data extension and you are referencing a key which is connected to another data extension and pulling out data from the other data extension. You can put anything else also. You can put other scores, you can do whatever you want. And it's not necessary you can only connect to another data extension. You can have multiple data, as long as this thing keeps changing. Maybe there's a third or fourth or fifth data extension which has additional data which needs to be displayed in your email. You just have to use the lookup function and that relevant data extension name with the correct key. You'll be able to pick up the information and display it wherever you want. Any questions? No questions, guys? I thought this will be confusing. Okay. Amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a homework for the lookup function as well as some basic AMP scripting using if then and things like that. Let's see how you guys do that. Tomorrow we will do another function. This is called lookup. We do another function called lookup rows. Lookup rows is little different. I'll show it to you tomorrow. But basically, it's a little different function. Lookup function gives you one value. Lookup rows gives you like a whole row. Right? Instead of one value, it will give you a whole row. And then with that row, you can pull out whatever you want. So there are different use cases for lookup, different use cases for lookup rows. We can do that tomorrow. One thing about lookup, which I forgot to mention, I told you it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I said 5 and 5b, I will mention it later. Any idea what 5a and 5b is for? Just a hint, right? You can do 5a, 5b, 6a, 6b, 7a, 7b, 8a, 8b, 9a, 9b, and it will go on and on. Any idea what are these extra optional arguments for? Any guesses?
These are the substitutes for 3 and 4.
No, they're not. They're not. So it all depends on your data. Now this is my data. Now, since I'm managing this data, let me tell you, this contains the scorecard of these people for that relevant month. See, this is month of December. And the way this data works is every month, this thing gets deleted and I get a new set of data for that next month. However, if I want to keep a record, then what I'll do is I will not delete the data. I will keep appending, and only thing changing will be the month. Now this is for December, then next will be Jan, then Feb, then March. So the same set of people will have now data for December, for Jan, for Feb, for March. Now, if we use the lookup function the way I've used it like this, what's going to happen is when I use this function, it starts scanning row by row. And the moment it comes across the employee code which matches, it will pick up the value and give it. But let's assume that December data is right on top. So it will pick up the December data and give me the values in the email. But I don't want December. I want February data. February data is down. So how do I tell the system, ignore December, ignore Jan, give me February? Because lookup function will pick up the first thing it matches, it is going to pick that up and it's going to give the value. So these are additional arguments, right? So again, it's like an AND condition. So what I will do then is I will, in my code, I will also add the month. I will do something like this, at month. Or I don't need to have variable. What I'll do is I'll come here. I will do comma. See the attribute, it's month, comma. Now when I do this, what it's going to do is it needs to find a record which satisfies both the conditions. Employee code has to match with the employee code of the sending data extension, and the month has to match with FEB, February. Only when it finds that condition will it display the values for quality and shift. If it does not find it, it will ignore it. It will not display any value. So it all depends on how your data is there in your data extension. If you have multiple records of the same person, then you will have to increase your arguments so that you can pinpoint and pick up the actual data which is required. If it is like this, where you store only monthly data, then no worries. Then you don't need these additional arguments. Am I clear? Guys, any questions? Okay, guys, I guess there are no questions. I'm going to end today's session and let us resume tomorrow with lookup roles. I'll be giving you some assignments and then let's see how you guys manage those. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, me.
Thank you.